Hey everyone, so today I want to talk about my sports gear and what I use to shoot sports. Alright, to start off with the gear, I'm just going to go down the list. So I use two Canon R6s, my 70-200 f2.8, a 24mm f1.4 Sigma art lens, and then I also use a 1.4 extender that I use for the 70-200. I'll get into the details on that. And then I also carry a monopod occasionally for most likely if I have the extender on, I'm trying to keep it more steady. I'll use the monopod, but most of the time I'm just handheld. And then to go over autofocus, my autofocus of choice on the Canon R6s have been center autofocus. So I just keep the autofocus point in the middle of the screen, or I use the face detection or eye detection tracking, which comes in handy in some sports and not so handy in other sports. Like in football, the face detection is a little tougher because they have the face mask, so it's not usually detecting the eye or the face very well, but it still sticks. But I like to use the center autofocus in football just to make sure that all the action is in the middle of the frame. Now with the Canon R6s, I use two of them, which gives me the opportunity to put a 70-200 on one of them and the 24 or an 85 on the other one. I sometimes use an 85 for basketball under the basket, but I have been pulling to the 24 most recently so I can get more in the frame under the basket. So with the Canon R6s, another huge benefit is that with the mechanical shutter, I can get 12 frames per second, and with the electronic, I can get 20. So depending on the sport, I'll jump back and forth between the mechanical and electronic shutter. I love being able to capture 20 frames per second with the electronic shutter, but sometimes it's just a bit too much for a throw in football or a shot in basketball. But it can also help you get that moment where the ball is just right on the tip of the finger, or right when it's leaving the quarterback's hands, or right when it hits the wide receiver's hands. So it does have its benefits. But then you're coming into the problem of space, of shooting 20 raw photos into your memory card at once per second. So sometimes I'll jump back and forth during a game. Usually I'm always electronic for track, because when they're jumping over the pole or they're jumping into the sand for long jump, having those extra frames to pull from comes in really handy. So now back to the Canon Extender. So I use the Canon 1.4 Mark II extender, and I use it with my Canon 70-200. Now this is a 2.8 lens. With the extender, it makes it a f4 lens. Now most cameras will pick it up and automatically switch to f4 and not allow you to go to f2 or 2.8 or any lower. So with that, on the 70-200, it turns it into almost a 300mm lens at f4. So that comes in handy when you need a little more reach in baseball or soccer and you have plenty of light, because at f4 you're going to lose some light that is coming in. So it does come in handy, but it also has its downfalls. If you're shooting late night sports like football under stadium lights, it can be really hard to shoot sports with an extender. So now in the daytime it's perfectly fine, at night is where you find the trouble. You also, with this extender, adapted with this EF to RF mount adapter, because I don't have RF glass, I don't have any trouble with autofocus. I still get great autofocus regardless of having an extender plus an adapter on the R6. So I find it hugely beneficial in daytime sports. I love using it in nature photography as well. So I would highly recommend at least a 1.4 teleconverter. So if you guys have any questions about this gear, if you have any questions about the Canon R6s, let me know in the comments below. I'd also appreciate if you like and subscribe, and I'll see you guys next time.